Hey y'all, so today we're going to talk about why I don't like open carry. Now, this is my opinion, and if you disagree or you do agree, feel free to put down below telling me why you do or do not like open carry, and we'll have a discussion. So let's get into it. So basically, the big thing why I don't like open carry is the added attention it grants you from other people, both good and bad, referencing both the good people, meaning like police officers and stuff, and the bad people, bad people. So I'm going to start out by explaining the extra attention from the police. Now, we can all agree that the old phrase of, I don't mind a cop unless they're in my rearview mirror, is pretty accurate and also applies to when you're on foot carrying a gun. We've all seen on the internet the many interactions people have when they're open carrying or carrying and they have an interaction with the police, and generally everything works fine. They come out, hey, somebody called in, said you had a gun, we just want to make sure everything's good. They check your ID, check you, make sure you're all good, and you're happy on your way. 99% of the time, that's what happens. Sadly, that's not always what happens, but that's usually what happens, right? So when I'm concealed carrying, while I am still 100% legal, just as if I was open carrying, um, it's less chance of that happening. If they don't, they can't ask you and question you about something that no one knows you have except for you. So the next thing I'm going to cover is the private business aspect. Now, we've seen as of late that many businesses have changed their policy to make it that they don't want people carrying a firearm in their stores. Some have specifically mentioned open carry, others have mentioned, no firearms in general. And they have the right to do that. We've seen Walmart and I believe it was Lowe's and different places like that have all done that, and it's their right to do that. They're a private business, they can do what they want. Well, when you conceal carry, you don't have to worry about that. Keep in mind, I'm referencing something that's against a company's policy, not breaking the law. I'm not talking about going into a courthouse or something like that, where it's, illegal to carry a firearm as a private citizen. That is illegal. I don't do that. And plus, going through metal detectors, it would be kind of hard to do that. I'm referencing basically breaking private companies' policy by doing what I want as an American. Go freedom. But yeah, so as concealed carrier, I don't have to worry about that. We've seen the footage of people getting harassed in Walmart for open carrying, and the cops get called, and it's a big ordeal. As a concealed carrier, I don't have to deal with that. Every time I've walked into Walmart for at least the last, as long as I've been carrying, I've had a gun on me, and never once have I been stopped and told I had to leave or told I can't have a gun on me. So that's kind of cut and dry, simple. I don't like open carry for going around doing errands and going to the stores because there's an added chance that if their policy doesn't allow that, you might have to leave and then, you once again be inconvenienced. I want to say one thing before I switch into the bad guy aspect. As far as this, like everything I'm saying is kind of circumstantial. I know in some areas, more rural areas, people, probably open carry all the time and don't ever have an issue. I live in a fairly urban area, so it's kind of a bigger deal for me because generally when you're in a more urban area, you're in a more purpley blue area, and purpley blue people don't always like firearms, and when they don't like firearms, you're at a higher risk of dealing with issues like that. Now, as far as the bad guy aspect, that's kind of an interesting one. Basically, well, 6 months ago when I originally came up with the idea of doing a video like this, none of recent events had happened, and I was going to basically talk about basically the things we always hear of, the element of surprise is your best weapon to use against a bad guy or an attacker, and when you open carry, you give that up. That still stands true, but now I have a much, sadly, more interesting, I don't want to sound like the media when I say more interesting, because what's going on is truly terrible, but it's a much better thing to talk about, and that is the fact that carrying a gun makes you a target. Lately, we've seen with the riots and stuff going on, we've got a lot of bad people doing a lot of bad things, and I won't go into too much of it because that's not what the video is about today. And some people are being targeted because of their political views and because they're freedom-loving Americans, and it's a sad day in America for that to happen. But open carrying a firearm doesn't protect you right now. It almost makes you a target. We've seen several people, again, conservative-minded and handgun and firearm ownership does kind of go together quite often, and we've seen people that are conservative minded be attacked. You know, the recent shooting where, you know, we heard someone in the thug crowd yell, "It's a Trumper! It's a Trumper!" And then you hear shots go off and they shoot the guy. You know, we've seen instances where that 17-year-old with an AR-15, he was just out defending property, and we could go back and forth on whether or not he should have been there. He shouldn't have been there, but at the end of the day, he was trying to be a good person and defend private property. But you know, he had to defend himself. He had an AR-15 on his person the whole time, and that did not stop people from charging at him, trying to get him, trying to kick him in the face, and running up on him with a Glock and getting their arm blown off. I want to know what kind of ammo that was, because damn. But so basically, recent events. It seems like open carrying a firearm, it's not a deterrent. And I know, I guess this doesn't really apply to if you're defending your own business, because at that point, you know, if you've got 10 or 15 guys with you and you're all armed and you're all open carrying, that's probably a little bit different, because that's a more show of force. But the individual person just going about their day, I wouldn't recommend open carrying. And again, I understand that we're talking about specific areas in the country. You know, I could walk down Main Street right now of my town and open carry and probably not have any issue. You know, I might get stopped by somebody wanting to know what I'm doing, but I'm not going to get jumped and mugged. But right now, we're at an interesting point in this country's history, and it's just, I don't want the added extra attention from people that they see I have a firearm. So I think that pretty much covers the main thing of why I don't like open carry. I just don't like the added attention that it warrants you. Again, certain areas of the country, it's probably not that big a deal, but if you get into some of the more urban areas, such as I live in, again, I'm not in a real big urban area. I'm kind of halfway between a small town and a big city, but I just don't like the added attention. I like the ease of concealed carry and the fact that I can go about my day, and everybody that I interact with doesn't know I have a gun because they don't see it, they don't know it's there, and nobody needs to know it's there. So that's my video. Again, looking forward to hearing what people think down below. Let me know, and have a good day.